She is the picture of today's American girl, an immigrant's daughter, dancer, college student, and free spirit, Juri Kibuishi. Born in Southern California, thriving in the golden sunshine, respecting her Japanese heritage, but thoroughly embracing what it means to be 23 along the beaches and freeways of the OC, sun-soaked Orange County, California.
I would say Julie is definitely an all-American Japanese girl. She liked to sometimes bow, just her kindness.
Kindness, that's the word you hear over and over to describe Julie, a quality no one ever expected could be her undoing.
Costa Mesa 911.
There's a body in my son's apartment.
Is it a female or a male?
It's female.
It couldn't be Julie, could it? The innocent, lively, creative young woman with a big circle of friends, most of them known well by her parents.
And her friends and the people she hung out with, never any danger.
No.
Nothing really for a mother to worry about.
My kids, they didn't go anywhere that they should not to go.
But Mom had never met the new man in Julie's life, 26-year-old Sam Hare, older and much more experienced in the world. Julie meets him at community college. He's a handsome combat vet, even a hero with Bradley Cooper looks, who served in Afghanistan and is now home in Orange County, pursuing his college degree and a little fun along the way. Larger than life, gregarious, and by all accounts, easy to like.
I hope you're taping this for my mommy back home.
Big, strong guy, happy-go-lucky, just a big galoof.
Larry Gonzalez grew up close to Sam in the military, calls him brother, and was in the trenches of Afghanistan with him at Camp Keating, a remote outpost under constant fire.
It can range anywhere from half an hour to hours.
And all those months in the front lines had an effect on Sam Hare. Like too many of our returning soldiers, he showed signs of PTSD. Ruben Salas is a Marine combat veteran and one of Sam's best friends.
He'll have those nightmares.
That's got to be pretty scary, huh?
For him, it was very traumatic.
Two outgoing 20-somethings from different worlds now living the life in Southern California. Julie, the passionate dancer with enough talent to be accepted at the prestigious Orange County School of the Arts, where Cindy Pekka Dolan taught her for 5 years.
She was very compassionate and warm and talented as well, very fun to watch on stage.
It's the same school where Glee star Matthew Morrison learned his craft.
Everybody wants a thrill.
Take a look at Julie in performance. Athletic, flexible, dynamic. Julie wasn't just artistic, she was smart. Sam was struggling. They met in anthropology class, so she volunteers to tutor him. Sam's parents, Steve and Raquel Hare, say Julie and Sam were good for each other.
She looked up to him, and she was very good at tutoring him in anthropology, and he got an A in that class.
And they're friends, right?
And I said, Sam, is there anything going on with you and Julie? And he says, absolutely not, Dad. She's like my kid's sister.
Okay, what's going on, sir?
But on this spring night in the OC, Kid's sister is in big trouble in Sam Hare's apartment.
There's a what?
A body, a dead body.
A dead body? Are you sure, sir?
I can think he's sure, man, I'm sure.
Okay.
He's cold.
Julie's lifeless body is sprawled across the bed. That's Sam's dad, Steve, making the breathless 911 call.
Sam was supposed to come to our house for the weekend. Saturday came, we hadn't heard from Sam, and throughout the day, I was calling his phone, but his phone it was off, and Sam never turned his phone off. And I said, honey, I'm gonna drive on down to Sam's to make sure everything is okay. And I had the key to his apartment. I walked in, and everything was neat, everything was clean. I looked around, I called Sam, nobody. Okay.
It's your son's apartment?
Yes. She's in the bedroom. She's got this from sexual activity. She's dead. There's blood on her head.
I knew she was dead, but I could see, unfortunately, I hate to say it, the clothes were ripped off.
Does your son know who it is?
He's not here. Jesus, honey.
You walk into his apartment,
correct,
and there's a dead woman there.
Correct.
What's going through your mind?
The initial thought is, what happened? Sam, what happened? What did you do?
But Sam, who outwitted and survived the Taliban in Afghanistan, was not around to answer. He was suddenly, unexpectedly off the grid.
The motive for the murder is still not known.
Samuel Hare hasn't been seen.
Police have issued an all-points bulletin for Sam Hare, a combat veteran suffering from flashback nightmares.
PTSD is very much in the back of our minds.
So you knew he knew how to use a weapon?
Correct. And that's why the armed and dangerous comes in, where he's missing and there's a possibility that he has weapons with him.
So everything that you heard about him pointed to Sam as being the guy?
There's absolutely no way that it was not Sam.
Back at the crime scene, her cell phone is constantly beeping with text messages, her Taylor Swift ringtone alerting the cops to its presence. Her mother, June, is searching for the good daughter who never is out of touch.
I don't even know how many times I text her. And are you still asleep, or are you okay? And no response. And then I started to think, what's going on?
First, we're going to start off with a very shocking story. It's out of California.
Julie Kibuishi is murdered, a gunshot to the head, found in her friend's bachelor pad apartment. There's no sign of struggle here, no sign of Sam. By his bed, an unused knife, a couple of books, a combat how-to, and the other on the wonders of sex. Out back, a barbecue on the patio. Everything neat and in its place. And on the counter, a wedding invitation for Sam's downstairs neighbors, his good friends, actors Dan Wozniak and Rachel Buffett.
Now, the Costa Mesa police have released a photo and vehicle description hoping to locate a 26-year-old man suspected of killing.
Costa Mesa, in the heart of Orange County, a city of 100,000. It averages just 2 murders a year. But on this May night, with a half moon rising, Lieutenant Ed Everett and Detective Jose Morales walk into what looks like a slam dunk of a murder case.
I was thinking a potential love triangle. Right as you walk into that doorway, you can see Julie's body positioned on the bed.
And what was the condition of her body?
She had one gunshot wound, kind of top center of the head. She was wearing a tiara.
A tiara. When Julie is murdered, she's wearing a crown. Her last night began as one of the happiest in her life. She had a dinner date with her big brother Taka to help plan his wedding. Her mother June remembers her practically bouncing out the door.
His fiancé asked her to become a bridesmaid. She gave her the tiara.
That was pretty special for her too, right?
Yes. She didn't take it off.
It was getting late, close to midnight, but Sam is desperately texting her. Messages that were still on her phone when police found it in her purse in Sam's apartment.
The text messages were very important.
Sam texts he is out helping his downstairs neighbor Dan Wozniak, the actor buddy, short on funds, getting married and freaking out over how he'll pay for his wedding. Helping Dan, then headed to Folks for weekend. But less than 2 hours later, Sam seems suddenly in distress, texting Julie, "Can you come over tonight at midnight, alone?" Very upset, need to talk. Then, "Jesus, I really just want to talk. I need someone I trust." Julie responds, "I'm here for you like family." And those were not the only messages on the night she was murdered. Police discover another more vile text, this one handwritten by the killer on Julie's body.
There was a message written on the back of her sweater.
And as cleaned up as you can, what was the message?
It was, "F you, all yours."
The working police theory?
We looked at the phone and thought, okay, maybe he's drinking, using drugs, and there was an incident, and he just snapped and, sexually assaulted her and wound up killing her and then fled.
Now, they just have to find Sam.
Police say the 26-year-old has disappeared. Neighbors say his bicycle sits outside his apartment, but his vehicle is gone.
His passport was missing. His car was missing.
Orange County Senior Deputy District Attorney Matt Murphy is supervising the case from the first call and says there is little mystery here.
I'm looking at everything going, come on, guys, this is obvious. You're going to find Sam. He's going to be our killer.
The final clue for police and Murphy, a big red flag. Sam Hare, the war hero's background check.
He's been in big trouble before. He was arrested for murder. He was tried for murder.
A murder charge points to Sam.
Squarely. Absolutely. It points with a neon sign.
Turns out Sam had been accused as a young man of luring a friend to a parking lot where he was killed by gang members. The charges didn't stick. He was acquitted. But if you're a cop investigating a murder...
We thought, okay, if he has this, he's predisposed and maybe he did it again.
2 days after Julie's body is found, the big break. When the banks open Monday, Sam Hare is leaving a digital trail, and his father, Steve, who is convinced his son could not be the murderer, is conducting his own parallel investigation.
Now, 11:59, 12:05.
Not looking for a killer, just looking for his son. The Hares believe Sam may be a victim himself.
This is your investigative box.
This is pretty much the investigative box.
Steve shares a bank account with Sam where his son saved $62,000 in combat pay. He's first to notice his son may have disappeared, but his debit card is not too far away.
I went on the computer and I saw there was activity. So I assumed if Sam or somebody was using it in Long Beach.
That's just 20 miles away, and when he gets to the bank, hanging around fruitlessly at the ATM for hours, Steve sees a bank alert. His son's card is being repeatedly used at another Long Beach location, Echo's Pizza.
So I went there, went to the pizza place, checked around looking for Sam's car. Sat there for an hour.
No luck, but the cops now have the same information, and they have the edge on Steve, because they have access to those little cameras above the ATM machines.
The bank sent us these videos. It was a day or two later, and then we were surprised to go, okay, who's this kid?
It's not Sam. His parents don't know who it is. Nobody knows who this guy is.
A pizza-loving, baseball cap-wearing stranger is draining Sam's bank account. An accomplice? A kidnapper? A killer?
It is Latin night at the Pulse, a gay nightclub in downtown Orlando, packed with 320 people. And this video of people dancing taken just last night, and then at 2:02 a.m., bartenders announcing last call, when suddenly the gunfire.
You could start smelling the ammunition in the air. Like it smelled like fire.
Was your instinct to hit the ground?
I just wanted to get as low to the floor as I could and try to crawl into safety.
As that gunfire erupted, you could hear it from the outside.
Oh my God, they're all shooting back and forth.
Our officer engaged in a gun battle with that suspect. The suspect at some point went back inside the club where more shots were fired.
You see people screaming and falling, and there was blood everywhere.
The nightclub has three main areas: the hip-hop room, the main bar with the dance floor, and a patio area. Some people escaping out this side door and into this small alleyway. Jean Yell telling me he crawled on the floor, reaching through the curtains to find a sliver of an exit, but that people were climbing over one another to get out.
People were jumping over you? People were trying to jump over me, like pushing my head down, like it's a state of panic, like we just wanted to get out.
Another survivor, Joshua, telling us how he hid under an SUV, discovering a survivor who'd been shot in both arms and in the back. He took off his shirt and used it as a tourniquet.
I took my shirt off, I tied it as tight as I could over the first wound. Second one, I took his shirt, tied it over that one. Thought he was okay. I kind of like held him over, like his arm over my shoulder and vice versa.
No ambulances left. Police told him to get in the back of the cruiser and to give the man a bear hug. 2:08 a.m. and the Pulse nightclub posts this on Facebook. Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running. But inside, the frantic scene continues. So many looking for the exits, others hiding in rooms with no way out.
I saw him. He was maybe 20, 30 feet away from me. And I saw the fire coming out of his gun every time he shot fire.
About 15, 20 people got shoved into a one-person bathroom until he started shooting through the doorway.
Dozens who did not make it out, becoming hostages stuck inside. Some huddled inside a bathroom just off the dance floor, texting loved ones. Call police, I'm going to die.
He called him a terrorist, has them in the women's bathroom, and please come get us out because he's about to kill us.
And in the midst of the attack, the killer himself. Authorities say he called 911 to pledge his allegiance to the terror group ISIS. Authorities sending armored vehicles and SWAT teams. They rushed to the scene. But for nearly 3 hours, they hold their fire, waiting outside.
We're being told possibly up to 15 remaining in the club that are barricaded in.
Why did the SWAT team wait for you? In that time, we need to set up reevaluate, reassess what's happening, and make sure that all the pieces are in place.
Around 5 a.m., explosions at the club.
Some sort of explosion or
Moments later, we learn it's a controlled explosion set off by police to distract the gunman. An armored vehicle smashes through a wall of the club, and SWAT officers swarm in behind.
Look at that, just shooting back.
11 of them suddenly involved in a shootout with the killer.
We had 11 Orlando police officers that exchanged gunfire with the suspect and killed him.
Authorities say the shooter, revealed to be 29-year-old Omar Mateen, a U.S. citizen born in America with Afghani parents. Police say he used 2 guns, authorities revealing he purchased both of them in recent days.
It was a handgun and a AR-15 type assault rifle.
One round injuring an officer during the firefight. This damaged Kevlar helmet may have saved his life.
And it is with great sadness that I share we have not 20 but 50 casualties. In addition to the shooter, there are another 53 that are hospitalized.
Making this the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Although it's still early in the investigation, we know enough to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate.
The 15th time President Obama has addressed the nation since taking office after a mass shooting on U.S. soil. We do have an ABC News exclusive here tonight as we now get a new portrait of what it was like inside that nightclub as the gunman asked people their racial backgrounds, began talking about ISIS, and holding them essentially hostage for several hours. This one survivor you're about to hear the tale of was in there for 3 hours as SWAT teams were assembling right outside here before they broke through those walls. And Gio Benitez talked to him a short time ago as he was leaving the hospital tonight. Gio is across town here in Orlando. Gio?
That's right, David. We are at the largest gay club in Orlando, and this is where we met that survivor. He played dead for 3 hours and was just released from the hospital. In fact, he's still wearing those hospital ID tags. Listen in.
He heard them on the, talking probably to the police department or texting, and he asked them, please do not text. And so they stopped, but then somebody started the texting back up again, and he said, didn't I say don't text? Give me all your phones. Who's in here? Are you guys black? And a couple of them said, yeah. He said that I don't have an issue with the blacks. And then he got on the phone, I don't know if it was with the news or the police department, telling them that to stop, America needs to stop bombing ISIS in
So he
Syria.
was calling people on the phone?
Yeah, he called somebody on the phone.
And he was telling them stop bombing ISIS?
Stop bombing ISIS on the in Syria. Then he called somebody else that he knew, and he mentioned that that he was the 4th shooter, and there was 3 others, and he mentioned, I believe, a female name, and that was playing dead, or because he's saying that she has a bombing vest, and he has one too. And then he said there were 3 snipers out there waiting for cops to come, so the snipers would shoot at the cops.
So this whole time, what were you doing? I mean, you must have heard all this gunfire.
Yeah. I stood quiet. I said, I don't think he knew we were there until he came back in and shot again, and one black boy came crawling underneath the stall, grasping our legs and having me and my friend to drop to the floor. And he would go wash his hands and use the blower, and I felt something poke the back of my pocket.
You think he was poking you?
Yeah, it was like one quick touch or poke. I don't know if it was with I didn't know what he had to use as a weapon, but he probably was thinking of, I'm dead.
So you played dead for 3 hours
yes,
straight?
And my friend followed the roll, quiet. I heard the cops screaming, get down, get down. It looked like they were getting closer. I don't know, they pulled people from the other side of the club there out. He was busy fixing his rifle, or I don't know what he had, but he was busy fixing. I heard shells drop, shells dropping on the floor. And he was happy that he got it fixed, and he said, I got plenty of bullets.
He said, I've got plenty of
extra bullets. He started shooting in the stall, and I don't know if he was killing the ones in the back stall, and the cops bust a hole in the wall.
What did you see when you walked through that club?
No, I did not. They took me out of the hole in the wall.
And he says that he is a mentor to a lot of the young people in this community. He says he knew 75% of the people in that club, especially all of those who died. David.
Chilling to still see that hospital band around his wrist, Gio. We're glad he's okay. This evening, so many families and friends still waiting for word about their loved ones. It's been an excruciating wait all day today. And ABC anchor Amy Robach is at the hospital with that part of the story tonight. Amy, what more do we know about the victims there?
Well, David, we can tell you that 44 people were rushed to this hospital in the hours after that deadly shooting. We know one has since been released, but 9 others died on their way to the hospital. And just to give you an idea of the scope of what these medical professionals are facing today, doctors performed 26 surgeries here today alone at this hospital. And hanging in the balance of all of this confusion and chaos are the families of those who are still missing. They are literally in limbo. Their names not on anyone's list. For most of the day, there were only numbers: 50 dead, 53 injured. But tonight, there are the names and faces to go along with the stories of so many people who ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. These names now included on the official death toll: Kim Morris, 37 years old; Luis Omar Ocasio Capo, 20 years old; and Juan Ramon Guerrero, 22 years old, who was there with his boyfriend. Dozens more lucky enough to survive, like Rodney Sumter, a bartender at the club and father of 2, and Josh McGill, who stopped to help him.
I kind of grabbed him and pulled him over to me. He was like, "Hey, man, I think I got shot." I took off my shirt and told him, "Hey, I got to stop the bleeding." I tied the first gunshot wound around his arm with my shirt.
Jillian Amador, just out of the hospital. She was on the dance floor when the gunman opened fire, trampled as she tried to escape. Her friend Jeanette McCoy helping triage victims in the minutes after the shooting.
I was okay besides the regular bumps and bruises, and my only instinct was to help everybody else around me.
But there are the countless others still unaccounted for tonight, like Jeff Rodriguez. He sent his brother a text from the chaos saying he was bleeding.
Last text said, I got shot, I'm bleeding out, I think I'm dying. I love you guys. Tell Mom, Dad, everyone I said I love them.
Tonight, so many families of those still missing are gathered here at Beardall Senior Center, just blocks from the crime scene, where authorities have the grim task of notifying next of kin about whether their loved ones survived, like Baron Serrano, who is still waiting to hear the fate of his brother Juan.
How important is hope to you right now in this moment?
It's the main thing. It's the only reason why I'm standing and I'm facing the prayers and everybody and answering all the calls. Because people are right now expecting the worst, not me. I know he's out there.
Barone told me that he visited the hospital 3 times today, searching for his brother amid the chaos. And in fact, just a few moments ago, David, I saw him back here again for a 4th time. He says he has to be strong for the rest of his family, which is literally falling apart at this hour, not knowing so excruciating for hundreds of family members and friends of people who are missing at this hour, David.
The entire country is feeling this with them, Amy. Amy Robach on the scene at the hospital, and she'll be here through the morning on Good Morning America. I want to get to Joshua McGill because you spent some time over at the hospital yourself today. I want to let everyone know at home that Joshua, you're 26, you were inside that nightclub.
Yes.
You got out and you were telling me that you crawled underneath an SUV.
Correct.
For safety.
I was actually trying to run for it and heard some more gunshots and kind of just dodged and ducked and kind of hid behind an SUV, crawled a little underneath it to kind of hide myself. When I heard the gunshots further away, I then crept out to run for it again, and that's when I noticed the victim.
Someone who needed help.
Someone needed help.
And you were saying they'd been shot a number of times.
Yes. At first, I just saw a lot of blood. I didn't know what exactly from. When I got to him and noticed he had been shot once on each arm, and then later on found out another time on his shoulder.
He was dazed a bit. He wasn't sure if he'd been shot. He said, "I think I've been shot."
He said he thinks he's been shot. So I assume he was in shock. I let him know that I'm here. I will be here to help you. I will do whatever I can. I need to stop the bleeding. Do you mind? And he just was like kind of out of it. So I took my shirt off, used it as a tourniquet to cut off the circulation to stop the bleeding. Took off his shirt, did the same thing to the opposite arm.
And I know there were ambulances had all gone to the hospital. There were none left.
Not.
And so the police told you to get in the back of a cruiser?
Yes. When we finally got to a safety zone, the officer told me there were no ambulance to be dispatched, but we will be transported in the back of a cruiser.
And they gave you instructions?
The instructions that they gave me were pretty simple. One was, I'm going to lay down on my back in the back of the seat. He's going to lay on top of me. I'm going to apply as much pressure to the wound on his back and hold him on the way to the ER. I did that, and while I began talking to him, the officers were saying, keep talking to him, keep him conscious. That's when I got his name, it's Rodney, age, where he's from, etc. I told him everything's gonna be okay. I got you. I did everything I can, to stop the bleeding. I asked him if he was religious. I said, I don't know if you are, but I'm gonna say a prayer. And I just, mainly I was praying that I wouldn't break my promise.
That he was going to be okay?
Yeah, that he was going to be okay. And I told him, I just said basically a prayer, you're fine, you're going to be okay. We're on the way to ER. And I'm pretty sure he mumbled amen. I learned earlier today when I went to the hospital, because I am still concerned, that he was stable, and that some of the family members I also learned have been able to go in and see him. So he's doing okay, and then we're hoping to actually meet with him tomorrow.
Because of those tourniquets and the hug in the back of the cruiser and the prayers on the way to the hospital.
Got it.
All right, Joshua, we're glad you're okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
26-year-old Joshua McGill, who helped save one of the people inside that club, Elizabeth.
What an extraordinary story, David. My goodness, what presence of mind that young man showed. We are, meanwhile, starting to get a clearer picture of the shooter, the man who caused the worst shooting, the worst massacre on U.S. soil. Omar Mateen is his name. He was an American citizen known to the FBI, and according to his ex-wife, he was an abusive man with possible mental health issues. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross is here. And Brian, you have an exclusive interview with this woman. You tracked her down, found her, and spoke to her. We hear from her tonight.
That's right. And long before today, Omar Mateen was a man described as unhinged, homophobic, violent, and prepared to kill. He's also someone well known to the FBI. But what's not clear tonight is precisely what triggered his deadly assault.
Honestly say that this was a sick person. This was a sick person that was really confused and went crazy.
This is Omar Mateen's ex-wife, Satora Yousefi, a woman who told ABC News tonight her former husband was a man with hatreds buried deep.
He would be perfectly normal and happy, joking, laughing 1 minute, and then next minute his temper, and he would be like, his body would just totally opposite, angered and emotional and violent. And that later evolved to abuse.
Mateen was an American citizen born in New York who attended high school in Stuart, Florida. He worked as a security guard for the last 9 years, posting this picture of himself wearing an NYPD T-shirt.
He really loved the police department. He worked as a correctional officer or a guard at the Juvenile Delinquent Center. And a lot of his friends, like I said, were from the police department in Port St. Lucie or Fort Pierce. And he, I believe he applied to the academy and was trying to become a police officer.
Oh my God.
His job had been to protect lives, but today he took lives. As the FBI responded in the early morning hours to the crime scene, agents quickly recognized the name of the shooter. It turns out the 29-year-old Mateen was well known to the FBI counterterrorism squad. He was interviewed by FBI agents 3 times over the last 3 years, after he allegedly told co-workers he had ties to known terrorists, the first time in 2013.
The FBI thoroughly investigated the matter, including interviews of witnesses, physical surveillance, and records checks. In the course of the investigation, Mateen was interviewed twice. Ultimately, we were unable to verify the substance of his comments, and the investigation was closed.
But then 1 year later, in 2014, Mateen was linked to this Florida man who went to Syria and became a terrorist suicide bomber.
We determined that contact was minimal and did not constitute a substantive relationship or a threat at that time.
There were no criminal charges and nothing on his record to block his purchase of the 2 guns he used in the shooting, a Glock pistol, and an assault rifle like these.
So you can legally walk into a gun dealership and acquire and purchase firearms. He did so, and he did so within the last week or so.
What agents don't yet know tonight is why he targeted the Pulse nightclub and why he did it on this day. Federal authorities say as Mateen was holed up in the nightclub after his initial assault, he called 911 to declare his terror ties.
Announced and pledged his allegiance to al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, and also invoking the names of the Tamerlan Tsarnaev and the Tsarnaev brothers who were responsible for the Boston bombing. That's very significant because it demonstrates, and I think it's very compelling evidence, that this is an ISIS-related terrorist attack in the United States.
Late today, the ISIS propaganda news agency claimed that Mateen was an Islamic State fighter, although there was no indication that the attack was planned by ISIS. And some terror experts believe ISIS leader al-Baghdadi may have simply been taking advantage of an opportunity.
This is likely to be somebody who was self-radicalized on the internet and decided on his own what the target was and when to attack it.
Now FBI agents are searching for clues, looking for his phone, his computers, to figure out what may have triggered Mateen to carry out the attack. His ex-wife Satori says he was bothered by the presence of gay people.
He would express, his anger towards a certain culture, homosexuality, and I know at that time he was trying to get his life straight and, follow his faith. And I guess that created a confusion between that, and there was definitely moments that he would express his intolerance to homosexuals.
Mateen remarried and had a 3-year-old son with his second wife. Satora says she was lucky to escape alive from her marriage to him.
And I'm blessed to have the family that I do because they saved me from death.
Satora has now been interviewed by the FBI, which is attempting to talk to all of Mateen's family and friends. The father told reporters he believed his son became upset recently when he saw two men kissing. Elizabeth.
We should note that his ex-wife, who, by the way, was rescued by her own family.
That's right.
They actually came in and took her out of that house secretly. But she observed no radicalized or even moderate religious tendencies while she was with him.
That's right. We asked her about Al-Qaeda and ISIS. She said she didn't see anything like that at all during the time she was married to him, although she does say he was a violent man who flew off the handle easily.
So a violent man while with her, and then we have reports that after she left and he did try to contact her, she refused all contact, that he then perhaps did begin to get perhaps radicalized, at least more observant, even taking a pilgrimage to Mecca.
It was even after that marriage fell apart that he began to be investigated by the FBI and was apparently telling co-workers about his connection with terrorists, and he was almost boasting about it. They investigated that and came to the conclusion that it was more a boast and not really a threat. They're certainly rethinking that tonight.
Bottom line, this is what they've all feared most, the lone wolf, somebody who just has to be inspired and decide to take it into his own hands to do something absolutely horrific.
And hides his intentions well.
All right, Brian Ross, thank you so much. David, back to you in Florida.
Elizabeth, thank you. And I want to touch on something Brian reported on there with our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, tonight, because so many Americans who have watched this unfold today are asking, how can someone be interviewed by the FBI 3 times and then in just recent days go in to buy guns with a federal background check, and yet there were no red flags that set off an FBI database somewhere, even though he'd been interviewed 3 times? How does this happen?
David, in most cases, you could be on the terrorism watch list and still legally buy a gun. In fact, the president in a recent town hall expressed great frustration that known ISIS sympathizers could still buy guns.
In the meantime, to another number you have reported on so often, you have said in your team that there are about 800 cases in this country as we stand here tonight of potential ISIS sympathizers, and yet law enforcement has to find a way to track all 800 of them. Is that even possible?
David, the FBI is under tremendous pressure. Investigations in all 50 states, as you said, hundreds of people to look at. The key, who is just interested in ISIS and who will actually kill? That's the dilemma that they face. And right now, there's a smaller group of people that they have under 24-hour surveillance that can require dozens of agents.
Under pressure, but now facing questions about how someone can be interviewed boast of sympathizing for ISIS at work and still be able to buy guns a couple of days ago.
Indeed.
Pierre Thomas with us tonight. Thanks so much.